Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 41 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And it's Wednesday night, so you guys by now know that Wednesdays we spend with the Kane Historic Preservation Society and hear stories of Kane's history. They are so good. I've learned so much. I hope you have too. And tonight's story is just fascinating. I think it's one that many of you may not know, but it's definitely one of my favorite ones of all of the stories that I've heard about Kane's past so far. So Wendy Oakes is here to tell us the story of Scipio Young. So I'm going to go ahead, flip you around. We're going to walk over. Hello, Wendy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you tonight?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for tonight's story.
Well, welcome to the courtyard in the
Yeah,
depot.
this is beautiful. What a great evening to be outside here. Can people just come down here and sit?
Sure.
That's
I've had
awesome.
people come down here and sit out here and eat lunch.
Yeah, this is nice. Grassy, beautiful, peaceful. All right, so tonight we're talking about Scipio Young. Where will you begin with the story?
I will begin in the Civil War period. Scipio Young was an ex-slave, and he ran away from his owners and joined the Union Army.
Where was he born?
In Essex, Virginia. He was born in Essex, Virginia. He was owned by a plantation owner down there, and he ran away, joined the Union Army. Eventually, he became what they called a body servant to General Thomas Kane. And a body servant today, they would call him a valet. You know, he took care of his clothing, he took care of his tent and everything that would traveled with him. So he stayed with him through the entire war. And then when General Kane left the war because of his injuries, Scipio went with him.
About what year would that be?
The end of 1863 is when he left the army. Then in 1864, he was here in Kane, and that's when they were building the house. And he brought Scipio here in Kane to help him build the town, basically. Scipio helped him build the mill, build the house, clear land here. He was General Kane's right-hand man at that time, and the interesting story is while he was here at one point he was probably just General Kane and Scipio. You know, that was probably about the only two, and some woodsmen around here. But after they had cleared everything and they had started it, he left and he went to get his family back in Virginia. He disappeared, and General Kane couldn't find him anywhere. And he went. He was trying to, because he was supposed to come back with his family, and he didn't. So General Kane put an advertisement in the Washington, D.C. newspaper and wanted to know if anybody knows Scipio Young, please have him contact Thomas Kane. Well, Scipio couldn't read or write. He, being a slave, an ex-slave, he had never learned. And so he somehow got the message. Somebody found him and said, General Thomas Kane is looking for you. And he gathered up his family, and about 1866, he moved his entire family here to Kane.
Wow. So
his wife Lucy, and his children.
So he started out in Essex, Virginia as a slave, born there.
Yes.
Then met up with General Kane when he
Union
ran away
Army.
to the Union Army. General Kane brought him back up here when he left the army, and it was basically the two of them clearing land.
Well, it started out that way, but he hired people. You know, there was other people came in, and so he helped General Kane
build the house that was up at the high school.
Build his sawmill to be able to cut the wood to get the town started. So he was right there at the beginning. I would say he was part of the founding of this town.
Wow. And then he goes back to Virginia to find his family, never comes back, and so General Kane wants him here, wants to make sure he's okay at least, and so puts this ad in the paper. And he ends up bringing his whole family here to Kane.
And we all know how General Kane was. He was an abolitionist, and he was always for the downtrodden. We use that word a lot for him because there was a book written about that. But that's the way he was. I think that legacy is stayed in Kane of all these years. So he brought his family back. They all came here to Kane, and then after they were back here, he had a baby after they came back. And that baby is the first black freed baby born here in Kane. And the best part of it is his name was Grant. They named him Grant Washington Young. And the reason being is that when President Grant came here to visit General Kane, he held the baby and then asked if he would be named after him. So he was named after the President of the United States.
How cool is that? The president came here, held this baby, and the baby was named after him.
Exactly. And that was Grant Washington Young. And he lived in Kane his entire life. He was, he worked for the post office. He died in his 80s. You know, it's fascinating that, you know, they all lived here. So after that, after they moved back here for a while, General Kane lent him money, and he started a business. And he started a barbershop, and of course he paid General Kane back. And the more successful he became, he actually built one of the buildings in Kane, had his own building. It became a barbershop and a billiard hall, and we have advertisements that show Scipio Young, proprietor, billiard hall, barbershop. So I want to show you the picture. Well, first, since I've forgotten about the pictures here, this is a picture of his family.
Do you know who's who in the picture?
Scipio's right there, and that's his wife Lucy. I believe that one is Grant, right there. We got Maggie, and that's Ella, and some of the boys, I'm not sure which one. There's one Thomas and one Henry, and I don't know which is which on that.
Okay. That's cool.
And one of the reasons we found out about this is one of the descendants of Scipio Young contacted me. His name's Bronson McCurdy, and he lives in Detroit, Michigan. And he sent us this photograph, and this is the same photograph, only colorized. And he wanted to know if we knew anything about Scipio Young. And I said, yeah, I know a little. But he filled me in on some, and then I did more research, and the whole story just became so fascinating.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating story, and those are beautiful pictures.
And so here is the building that he built. This is, you can see at the top, it says S. Young, 1887, and this was his billiard hall. And eventually, once he got older, he stopped he rented the building out to different businesses. Because you can see this one says music store. And at one point there the YMCA was there. So after he was in his, you know, because he lived for a long time, so he rented out the building. So this building, unbeknownst to us, we've seen this picture a lot. We have this picture, and we knew about this picture, and it was Scipio Young's building, but we didn't know is that this building is still standing today, because the triangle was taken off, so you couldn't see the triangle anymore. So we took this picture and wandered up through the streets of Kane, looking for the building to see if it it was there. This is Scipio Young's building. It's part of Northwest, actually where the ATM machine is, and where Artworks at the Summit is, and then of course the Chamber of Commerce office.
And you can see there too. I mean, I guess you can't really see it on here because it took the triangle down, but
it still says S. Young underneath the paint. You can, if you look really closely, you can see it.
You can see it.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So that was Scipio Young's
That's his building.
So he borrowed money from General Kane, started his own business, and it was successful.
Yes.
And he built this building. Did he have a home here?
He had a home here. He built a home here. He built a home. It was 121 Grieve Street. It's no longer there. It was torn down in the 60s, but it would have sat across from where Central Towers is on Grieve Street. And that's the house.
Oh, wow.
That is the house that he built.
That's a really big house.
It's a very large house. His whole family lived there with him.
Oh, wow.
His sons and his daughters.
Yeah, that's a beautiful home.
We have a little blurb from a newspaper that says that that just notes that Scipio Young is building a building, and it's going to be a grand house or something, something to that order.
Yes, it looks like that was fulfilled.
It was. Well, and then his children, Maggie. This is Maggie Young. She was a nursemaid for the Kane family. She was well loved. She worked for them until she retired at an old age. They thought of her as part of their family. You can see we've had this part. This photograph was probably taken by. It could have. Well, we don't know for sure, but we think it might have been taken by Elizabeth.
Oh, that would make sense.
Yeah, this was one of the glass negatives, and we had this forever, and we didn't know who she was. And you know, it's this lady. You know, we figured she was a nursemaid of some sort, but then we finally found out this is Maggie. This is Maggie Young. This is Scipio's daughter.
Wow.
So she lived. She never married. She didn't have children, but she lived here in Kane, and she died here in Kane. And here's a picture. I wish I had pictures of the other children. I have the ones in the family, but not. This is Grant.
So Grant was the youngest that was born here in Kane.
He was the one born here in Kane, the first black baby, free black baby. And he was named after the president.
Yeah.
So and this is him when he was older.
And did you say he worked at the post office?
He worked at the post office. He worked for the post office.
What year did he die?
I can't tell you that off the top of my head. I didn't bring the things. I don't keep some of the dates. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it would have been in the 50s, I believe.
Okay, so some people watching this might even have a memory of him.
It was in the 1850s, I think, is when he died, or 1950s.
Yeah.
So the rest of the story about Scipio, and this is really something. He became very wealthy, and he lived until he was 101 years old. So he died in 1920. The rest of the family stayed here, but I found, when I was doing research, I found newspaper articles of his death notice in different newspapers across the country. I found one from Des Moines, Iowa. I found one in California. I found one in Illinois. And I kept thinking, why in the world is a death notice from a man who lived here in Kane in newspapers across the country? Here I finally figured out it was because he was wealthy. He was an ex-slave. He was a black man. And it said his estate was worth $50,000. And in fact, some of the headlines said, "Wealthy Negro passes away in Kane, Pennsylvania." And
this is like such a shock, like an anomaly.
Right. And back then, that was not. This is in 1920, and this is not something that they see very often. So, in today's terms, his estate he would have been a millionaire. $50,000 at that time. Today's it would have been over $1 million. So it was just a fascinating story to find this ex-slave that became part of this town and helped build this town, and his children were here and helped build the town. His son Henry started the African Methodist Episcopal Church that was located around the corner of Welsh Street and Kinzu Avenue.
Okay.
Don't know how long it lasted. I think it only was here for a few years. I can't find when it started and when it ended, but it seems from what I've seen, it's only like maybe 5 years that it was here. But still, and his son Thomas moved to Smethport, and he became a restaurant owner and a famous, not famous, but he played baseball in Smethport, and it was, a very good athlete. So all his family did well. His one daughter, Ella, she got married, and she lived here her entire life. They're all buried up at Forest Lawn Cemetery. They all stayed here in Kane. The Grant's children moved from Kane, and that's how it was through him that we found descendants that contacted us. But the whole story is just fascinating, and we never knew it. We never knew that this family lived here and had so much impact on the town of Kane.
It's really amazing to think someone born into slavery died a millionaire and helped found a town.
Right.
And lived to be 101.
And we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
That was the part that it was like, how do we not know this?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you guys discovered this and that you're sharing this story. It's a very important one. And what a legacy Scipio Young has left, not just in the things that he did to help found this town, but also the building. I think it's amazing that his building is still here.
He evidently, from what I've read, he evidently owned other buildings in town, but we don't know if those buildings are still in existence. If we don't know which buildings they were, but there is references to him owning different properties in town.
It's awesome. What a great story, and one that's probably pretty little known.
No, I don't. Every time I mention Scipio Young, it's like, who?
Yeah. Well, it's going to all change today.
I hope so. I wanted to get it out. I wanted people to understand and see what happened. I think General Kane's legacy of abolition, his abolitionists and his downtrodden, it's just stayed in Kane. I just love this whole story.
Me too.
It's uplifting.
It's very uplifting. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share about Scipio?
I think I've hit it all. I think I've hit all the points.
I think you did too. Yeah. Awesome job, Wendy. Thank you so much for sharing the story. And
well, you're welcome.
Just appreciate you guys being these faithful detectives into Kane's history and sharing them so well with us.
If anybody has any questions, they can stop by. We have these photographs on display.
Awesome. Yeah, come by any Wednesday or over
Any
the
Wednesday
weekend.
or
just
the
call
on
you.
weekends.
Email
You can
you.
do that too.
All right, Wendy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. I love that story. It's definitely one of my favorite stories of Kane's history. And I hope that it's something new that you learned. It's so exciting to just know the history and the founding of our town. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 42.